further queries. The next slide I want to talk about is an interesting legal dispute between Leeds City Council and Mr. Stephen Broadley, who is a landlord who has 5 rental properties, all under short hold tenancies. And this is a really interesting case because this Leeds City Council pursued the landlord for up to for the council tax, even though the property was tenanted. It's a bit of a technical, quite difficult case to break down. But in short, they were pursuing him on the basis that his tenancies had lapsed into a periodic basis, which is fancy term for monthly rolling contracts. Now, because of the 6-month rule, so generally the concept is that any tenancies that are 6 months, if tenancy 6 months or greater, it's the tenant's responsibility to cover the council tax. And anything under, for instance, holiday lets, the responsibility falls to the landlord to cover the council tax. So what happened with Leeds City Council, due to a technicality, we're trying to chase the landlord, Mr. Broadley, for the council tax. They went to all the way up to the High Courts, so it went to the valuation tribunal to start with. It was overturned. It was Mr. Broadley won the case. They then went to the Court of Appeal, so they went to the High Courts again. That was overturned, and it was all on the basis that Mr. Broadley had a specific clause in his tenancy agreement that said after the fixed term, something I'll show you in the next slide. But it's effectively after the fixed term, the tenancy will continue on continue. And I'll show you this. I don't expect you to all write this down or read it, well, it's quite text heavy, but effectively that's the clause, and this is something I've taken from the Association of Residential Lettings tenancy agreements. If anyone wishes to have this clause written into their agreement, don't really know how to write it down, just email me at the end or come speak to me at the end, and I'll happily send it to you within sort of 48 hours. But generally what this effectively says is it will continue on, and then there's also a special clause at the end that says after the fixed term it will continue on month by month. So that makes it a contractual periodic tenancy rather than a statutory periodic tenancy. As I said, very tech heavy, and if anyone has any questions at the end, by all means I'll happily go further granularity on that. Tenant fee ban. I'm sure we've all heard about this lovely thing that's happening. From April 2019, there was interestingly, I was actually watching a webinar with David Cox, who is the CEO of Arla, and he was effectively saying, just basically giving his take on what the House of Lords have been discussing, what's going to be signed off. But effectively, from April 2019, landlords and agents will not be able to charge any fees to tenants, any administration fees, any inventory fees, any checkout fees, anything that you would normally charge your tenant. You are not unable to charge renewal fees. You can't do any of that. These are all the fees that have been levied. However, there are furthermore holding deposits. They are capped at 1 week's rent, and deposits, actually the deposit you would lodge with the Deposit Protection Service. Most agents will either do 1.5 months rent. From April 2019, it's going to be capped at 5 weeks rent. There are certain charges that can be levied upon the tenants. So you've got if the tenant loses their keys, then obviously you charge them for that. Rent arrears. This is an interesting one. You can charge them for interest, and the way it's been calculated is it's going to be based on 3% above the Bank of England base rate once the tenants are 14 days in rental arrears. Okay. So my concern here is that, and this has been echoed by some of the industry, is that this is basically gives tenants carte blanche to not paying their rent for 2 weeks, which is problematic to say the least. There is surrender of tenancy fees. Again, this hasn't been 100% conclusive. There is still up for debate, but that's been put in that was discussed today. Change of shares as well, which I presume that is referring to tenant substitutions. So you can actually, they've been capped to £50 is what you can, or alternatively an equitable sum. So if you have to demonstrate the costs that you incur for instance, to charge the tenant for a tenant substitution. And if it exceeds £50, you'd have to be able to demonstrate why you're charging your charge. If you can't, then most you can obtain from is £50. Again, the penalties for non-adherence, local trading standards is £5,000 for the first fine, and then it goes up to £30,000. So it's big penalties here. No fun. Let me see. Next slide is about fines. So yeah, from the 6th of April 2017, this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of the potential penalties and fines that are being put against landlords. The new powers for local authorities. So from York Council, I was referring to serving improvement notices earlier. Landlords are being asked to potentially for rent repayment orders if the property is deemed uninhabitable. Fines up to £30,000. I mean, and these are the kind of, landlords can actually be banned from managing their properties. So there might be a point where you have to, I'm not saying anyone in this room, because obviously you're all here to learn about the legislation, but some landlords will be banned and will have to pass on their properties to a managing agent to manage on their behalf. But these are the kind of things, and I would hope that some landlords wouldn't be doing some of these things. Anyway. Next thing is court culling. I put this in here. So this is something that when I went to attend an conference, a regional conference earlier in the year. Effectively, a lot of courts are being closed down. All the information is there, but with less courts means that the dates to get court hearings. For instance, if you have tenants who don't pay their rent, it can be quite problematic. And the court hearings generally, sometimes originally it was like 2 months, and it's being extended to 3 to 4 months before you can get a court hearing date in some localities. So just bear that in mind. Ideally, you don't want to be having many tenants not paying rent or not adhering to their tenancy agreement. Lastly, just a bit of a reminder, really. Electrical checks at the moment, electrical installation condition reports. There's consultation on this. It's currently not mandatory, but it is under consultation, and I'm predict that in the next couple of years, that's the next thing that's going to be mandatory. Electrical installation condition, EICRs I'm going to call them, generally have a 5-year shelf life anyway. Also climate protection, that's less so relevant to you as landlords, it's more towards agents, but from April 2019, there's going to be industry-wide, we need to have, every agent needs to have climate protection. There was also consultation about landlords joining a redress scheme like the TPO, like agents do. Well, what the latest is on that, I haven't got any updates, I'm afraid. And just last bit about gas safety regulations. It's not much change really, other than the fact that even it's checked every 12 months. One thing I will say in landlord's favour is that it runs like gas safety is now run like an MOT almost, so that you've got, if you have a gas safety carried out, for instance, in now, and then if you were to carry out in 10 months' time, then you'd have like you have 10 to 12. How do I put this? You carry out the gas safety act, carry gas safety out now in December, and then you carry out the next one in October 2019, then it would last till December 2020. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, fine. And there we go. That's it. And one thing I will say, I've got my email address there. If anyone wants any of the slides for tonight, by all means, you can send an email me, or we can speak to any of the guys out here. I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much for coming. Any questions to anyone on the board?
Just one on something very recent from yourself about the abolition of the charges from April. You can't charge for this. I mean, so where do you see the future? The money's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So what, for example, are Churchill's doing about that sort of?
Really good question. Okay, so just to confirm, this gentleman has just asked what's going to happen with agents more than anything, because if they're not able to mitigate their as a result of the tenant fees. Now, personally, what I'm doing is I'm looking at other revenue streams to mitigate